Don't Listen Alone, Short Horror Stories by Layla Brinley. Episode 8, Horror Stories. I'm part of my college's library crew, and honestly, I've never loved anything so much. First of all, I love the smell of books, and this cavernous library always has the smell of paper and ink floating in the air. Secondly, it's so quiet. I can be alone with my thoughts and nothing will disrupt me. Finally, and maybe the best part, any of the books in the back room that have been retired from the shelves are mine if I want them. In fact, that's where I am right now. Miss Finnegan, our librarian, asked me to sort through the old books, the ones in bad condition to the trash pile, the ones in good condition to the donation pile, and if I see a book I like, feel free to take it. As a huge horror fan, I've naturally been keeping my eye out for any spooky stories. So far, though, no luck. I looked up at the digital clock hanging on the far wall of our musty book storage room. It read 17:30. I only had 30 minutes left to work before the library closed, and there were so many remaining shelves of books to sort through. While this might bother some people, it didn't bother me. Only presented the perfect excuse to come to the library on the weekend instead of going to the party my weird roommate is trying to drag me to. I continued sorting when I came across a book sleeved in black leather. It seemed much too nice for a library book, but it had the stickers on the side, meaning it had been on the shelves at some point. Weirdly, there was no title, not on the cover nor on the first few pages. However, one of the stickers on the side read, Horror. Miss Finnegan poked her head into the room as I continued examining the strange book. "Mira, I'm closing up, come on," she told me. "Sure, coming," I nodded, scooping the book into my backpack and standing to follow the librarian. "You know," Miss Finnegan said as we headed towards the entrance, turning lights off as we went, "you don't have to come in on the weekend if you don't want to. You can do normal teenagery stuff like watch YouTube or party or whatever you youngins do these days." "No, it's quite alright," I assured her. "I'm not really into that kind of stuff. I'm happy to come here and help you. I love the library." Miss Finnegan smiled. "You're such a kind soul," she told me, locking up the library doors behind us. "I'll be here as early as 6 tomorrow, so feel free to come whenever you'd like." I nodded. "That sounds great, Miss Finnegan. Have a good night. See you tomorrow." I headed towards my dorm, a short 5-minute walk away from the library. Usually it was pleasant, but tonight it was cold and dark. The first few weeks of winter dropping the temperature. This made the walk slightly longer, but when I arrived, I changed into pajamas and sank into my bed, bundling blankets around me. Glancing around, I noticed Agatha, my irresponsible roommate, was nowhere to be found. She was probably off partying, like usual. I don't care though. It's quiet, the perfect atmosphere for my reading. Sliding the horror book I'd collected from the library off my nightstand, I opened it and held it in my lap. The first thing I noticed was that the main character's name was Mira. I began to notice something scary, and I reread the paragraph I found disturbing. Mira exited the library, chatting with her school's librarian, Miss Finnegan. She had just finished sorting old library books. Miss Finnegan told Mira she didn't need to come to work in the library on the weekends. She could do normal teenager stuff if she wanted. Mira laughed and told the librarian about how much she loved the library. She didn't care for the stereotypical teenager activities anyway. With that, Mira headed back to her dorm room and settled into her blankets to read, relieved that her annoying roommate, Agatha, was not there. I was sure this was some kind of joke. Someone had planted the book in the library, knowing how much I loved horror, and decided to play some sick prank. But that wouldn't make any sense. How would they know what I did tonight? Convinced some kind of logic would win, I turned the page, expecting it to be blank. But it wasn't. Mira frantically turned the pages it read. She expected that some sort of logic could explain this book. Little did she know the magic it contained. But as she learns this, she becomes mesmerized by the story between the pages. Will it predict her future? Grant her wishes? How does it know so much about her? The book was right. I was mesmerized by it, so I continued reading. Any uncertainty I had prior was gone, replaced by amazement. Mira was minding her own business, reading her newfound book, while under her bed, a murderer was waiting. I froze. Who was under my bed? Would the book tell me? I read the next sentence. It was the escaped serial killer nom-nom, known for eating his victims' brains. I slammed the book shut and placed it on my nightstand, clicking off the light. I moved around my blankets to make it seem like I was settling into sleep, though I still sat upright. Carefully, I pulled the blankets off my lap and turned to the side. Silently counting to 3, I leaped off my bed and sprinted for the door. I heard someone emerge behind me as I struggled with the lock. It was jammed. I frantically spun, looking around for any other exits, but was met face to face with the killer nom-nom Hopper. He plunged the knife into my stomach and I fell to the floor in a pool of blood. I attempted to crawl away, but did not make it very far before I died. If only I'd read the book, as this was the last page. Mira became terrified. There was a killer under her bed? Not thinking, she set down the book on the nightstand and pretended like she was going to sleep. However, she perched on the side of her mattress, launching herself across the room and towards the door. Nom-nom approached her as she struggled with the lock. When Mira turned, instead of finding escape, she found the knife driven into her stomach. It killed her almost instantly. Now, Mira reads this as a ghost, forced to haunt her dorm room until this book is destroyed many, many years from now. In a few minutes, Agatha will return to the room, finding Mira's body propped up at the kitchen table, the book sitting on the nightstand, and no sign of Nom-nom. She will call the police and leave the room to wait, but not before seeing this book. Agatha retrieves it and takes it out of the room with her, not only disrupting a crime scene, but also allowing the book to determine her fate. Hey there, listeners! Want to figure out who this nom-nom serial killer guy is? Well, make sure to check out episode 2, The Asylum, for his backstory. I'll put a link in the description. Also, if you haven't already, make sure to like this episode, follow the channel, and vote on what scary stories you want to hear more of. Thanks so much for listening! Thank you for listening to the Don't Listen Alone Scary Stories podcast. Please like this episode and follow the channel. Thank you.